Alright guys, so for the second time on the channel, we're going to be taking a look at the Seiko Golden Tuna Reissue. Last year I had this watch in, and at the same time I also had the Ninja Tuna. I was a little bit pressed for time and ended up combining them both into one video. I always thought they were both deserving of their own spotlight though, so I'm glad to get this one back in to take a look at with you guys. Funny enough, I'm actually doubling up on the tunas again. I also have in the SBBN 017, and look out for the video on this coming very soon to the channel too. Both of these watches were lent in by a good friend of mine, Chris. You can find him on Instagram at Seikoholic7. He's lent in quite a few watches to the channel, so big thanks to him. So let's get into the tuna. Alright, so for a lot of you guys watching, you're going to know the origins of this watch, but if not, just a quick backstory. In the history of Seiko, there's been a lot of technical strides they've made, and quite a few firsts in the world of watchmaking. The original 1978 Golden Tuna was one of those watches that included both. The original 7549 Golden Tuna was the world's first quartz saturation diver. It came out in 1978, and I believe the model ran until sometime in the mid-80s. I think it was 1985. This model marks the 40th anniversary of the original. It's limited to 1,978 pieces, which is actually my birth year, so kind of adds to the cool factor a little bit for me. The watch is a fairly faithful recreation of the original, although when you start getting into the materials, the size, the little details, there's quite a few differences. A big one is the water resist that was 600 meters on the original to the 1,000 meters on this model. I'd love to have the original here and go through all of those little differences, but for today we'll have to stick to the reissue. The case is made primarily with two materials. First is the shroud, which is ceramic, which is much harder and more scratch resistant than steel. The case is made from titanium, so although it looks like it'd be a heavy one, it's not bad at all. The case is a monocoque design, meaning it's a one-piece case. Its bonus is that it gives the case less failure points when it comes to water getting in. The negative is when you're due for battery change, to access the movement, you have to remove the crystal and get at the movement through the top of the case. The case back has the familiar wave logo we see on lots of Seiko divers. There's a few of the specs there, and the watch number out of 1978. The dial has a nice, clean, easy to read layout. It's quite deep into the watch, which I think at least in part is due to the thicker crystal you need to handle the 1,000 meter water resist. The handset and hour markers are pretty well true to the original, although the one upgrade they have is Seiko's modern loom formula, and yeah, everything you'd expect from a Seiko diver here. Everything is bright, evenly applied. You really can't ask for more. So let's run through some of the measurements here. The case on this comes in at a width of a little over 49 millimeters. I'm actually getting 49.2 millimeters, although the shroud angles in towards the dial, which helps with making it wear a little smaller. It's a lugless design, but with the case being round, the top to bottom measurement is the same as the case width. The lug opening is 22 millimeters, and the thickness is about 15.5 millimeters. The crystal is sapphire, and the watch runs the caliber 7C46 high torque quartz movement. I won't get into it here today, but if you do some research on it, it definitely isn't your standard issue quartz. It was designed specifically for professional dive watches and is used only in the quartz tunas as well as the discontinued Seiko ashtray. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to talk about today. Let me give you guys a quick look on wrist. So here it is on my 7¼ inch wrist, and there is absolutely no hiding the fact that it's a big watch, but these watches do wear so good. The strap on the watch, by the way, is a Seiko strap, but not the one that comes with the watch. Chris swapped it probably to help preserve the original. The original has gold hardware matching the case. Now, one negative with the watch, and I mentioned it in the last video, is the bezel action. The bezel is very stiff to turn on this watch. watch. I guess if you're actually using this to dive with, it's a good thing. You're not going to knock it out of position. But for us casual bezel turners, I'd like to have it maybe a little bit easier to turn. Take some elbow grease to get this one moving, but otherwise just love the watch. So what do you guys think? I know some people aren't crazy about the price, but I find the more you look into watches like this and what's going on behind the scenes underneath the hood, the more it makes sense. Definitely a watch I've enjoyed wearing the last few days and would be happy to have in the collection. So thanks again to Chris for lending this awesome watch in for us to check out together. Thanks a lot for stopping by, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.